NASCAR President Steve Phelps says the sport will continue to be bold and innovative. Martin Truex Jr. continues to cast doubt on his NASCAR future, and Alex Bowman, an ally, reveal a hot new Nashville paint scheme. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. I hope you're having a wonderful week. We've got a few things to catch up on, like this past weekend, NASCAR President Steve Phelps spoke to reporters in San Francisco. He was asked specific questions about the 2023 schedule and beyond. But before we get going, I want to give a special shout out to Doug Mount. He made a YouTube video a few weeks ago, and some of y'all sent it to me. Doug created a custom 1/64th scale diecast to commemorate Out of the Groove's first appearance on a NASCAR race car. He was able to send this to me, and while I don't currently have a PO box open and we're not doing show until Tuesday, I thought we could kind of throw back for a day. Check out all the great details. This is Jeremy Clement's Las Vegas playoff car from last year. He's got the red splitter, the red playoff banner and spoiler, and the Out of the Groove logo, as you can see, is right there on the door next to the 51. This is a great time. It was awesome to be an associate sponsor of a playoff driver, a playoff car. Unfortunately, Jeremy was caught up in an early crash, but this was a really cool experience, a great way to commemorate the first time Out of the Groove was ever on a NASCAR stock car. So thank you to Doug Mount Customs, for creating this and sending it to me to show off on the show. I really appreciate it. This is awesome. Now, obviously, I'm partial to any paint scheme that features the Out of the Groove colors, but I want to talk about another exciting paint scheme this morning. For the second year in a row, Ally, Dale Earnhardt Jr. collaborated to create and reveal Alex Bowman's special Nashville Super Speedway scheme. I'm only bringing this up on the show because last year's scheme, if you watched my vlog I did at Nashville, that was one of my favorites of the year. So when I heard they were gonna do another special scheme for the race this year, I was very, very excited. They revealed it yesterday. Ally put out a fun little video featuring Alex Bowman and Dale Earnhardt Jr. committing several traffic violations. But then at the end, they reveal the scheme. And here it is. Alex Bowman also tweeted an image on his account. This thing looks hot. Very pink, very purple. Sleek, stylish. I've got nothing bad to say about this design. Ryan Williams put it together. Naturally, we have to compare it to last year's Nashville scheme. I love the light blue accents and design on last year's car. I loved that color being thrown in the mix, something new to spice it up for a special one-off event. This paint scheme leans heavily into the pink and purple, but it still has a little Nashville touch to it there on the front end. I love the little guitar tuning pegs. Love the attention to detail. Man, this is tough. Again, I loved the colors of last year's car. I loved adding that little bit of blue in there. But as just a design, I do feel like this year's is a little more cohesive. And again, thanks partially to the little guitar on the front, it fits the theme of Nashville weekend really, really well. So this is a tough call. I will be at Nashville in a few weeks. I will be there to see this car in person. We'll see if it tickles me the same way seeing last year's Nashville car did when I saw it in person. That'll be the true deciding factor. The in-person experience. Anyway, let's get to some real news stories. Let's react to some actual heavy-hitting quotes. Martin Truex Jr., during the FS1 pre-race show before the Sonoma race this Sunday, had a real interesting and I think a very telling quote when Chris Myers asked him about his NASCAR Cup Series future, brought up the fact that he's not under contract for next year and that he's expected to make a decision on his racing future in the coming weeks. Martin Truex Jr. said, quote, "I'm getting closer. I should know here pretty soon. But I've had a great career, had a lot of fun, and been fortunate enough to work with a lot of great people and make a lot of great friends and had a blast." Just like I said last week after Truex spoke to the media then, it sounds like he already has one foot out the door. And last week he did say that if he's going to commit to another year of racing, he wants to be 100% focused and all in. He doesn't sound 100% focused right now on this current season of NASCAR racing. I think he steps away from racing after this season, and I think these recent quotes, even the one he said Sunday afternoon, helps confirm that. Martin Truex Jr. still has something left in the tank, but he is one of the oldest drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series, and I think this year, in some ways, he struggled to get the hang of the next-gen car at tracks he was otherwise familiar with. And when you factor in his personal life and how open he and his partner Sherry have been over the years, I think that's what's calling him right now. I can't blame him. It's a difficult personal decision. I'm not mad if Truex decides to hang it up. He's won a championship. He's won 31 races. He has every crown jewel except, I guess, the Daytona 500. A couple of Xfinity championships to boot. He he has nothing left to prove as a NASCAR Cup Series driver. If this is, in fact, his final season, he can sleep easy knowing he has a complete Hall of Fame resume. A lot of people were talking about those comments Sunday and even yesterday, Monday, so I figured I'd at least react to the latest here on the show. Let's move on. Also announced on Sunday, NASCAR confirmed that they will return to the LA Memorial Coliseum next February for The Clash. The Clash at the Coliseum returns for 2023. February 5th is the date they currently have circled. Tickets, I believe, will go on sale in early August. They're not available yet. This is a big announcement, not a shocking announcement. After the presumed success of this past February's inaugural Clash at the Coliseum, it seemed very likely that NASCAR would go back and try the exact same thing for a second year and see if they can firstly recapture this year's magic, but secondly, possibly even build on it. When NASCAR first announced they were going to run an exhibition race inside a football stadium, I think a lot of people were highly and justifiably skeptical. But the event turned out to be a success. As someone who was there in person, it was an atmosphere unlike any other NASCAR race I've attended. Just a different energy. You could tell many of the people there had never been to a NASCAR race before, and so that brought with it a different vibe. All the musical performances they had lined up were something else for sure. And the racing. Close, tight confines, a quarter-mile bull ring there, and a temporary circuit. It was nuts. Unique is a very broad word, but I feel like that is what fits the LA Clash at the Coliseum the best. It proved, though, that with this next-gen car, NASCAR can try some new things. They can continue to be bold and innovative, as NASCAR President Steve Phelps said earlier this past weekend in San Francisco. When talking to Bob Pockers, he said, quote, "We're going to be bold and innovative. We're going to keep mashing the gas, if you will. That's been the success of NASCAR over the last 2.5 years, is doing things that are unexpected, going to places that are unexpected." He was asked many specific questions about the 2023 schedule, which has not been announced yet. We have a few details that are trickling out, like we know the LA Clash is back. We know the Texas All-Star Race, it sounds like, is back. Phoenix will be the championship once again, but many of those important details in between have not yet been filled in. Again, asked by Bob Pockers, here's what Steve Phelps said about the future of perhaps street courses or other unique tracks being added to the NASCAR schedule. You know, that's something that we're exploring. It's hard to say at this point. I personally think having a street course on the schedule would be a good thing. Where it is, what it is, remains to be seen, but I think it'd be part of our future. I really do. And I know there are some traditionalists that probably don't like that, but with 36 points-paying races and 2 exhibitions, I think there's room on the schedule for a street course. Let's talk about schedules for a second. I've heard a lot of rumors. Obviously, we know that the Chicago street course has actively been explored as a possibility. They scanned the streets of Chicago for iRacing. They did that Pro Invitational race last year on the Chicago street course. It sounds like NASCAR's negotiations with the city of Chicago and maybe even the state of Illinois have been up and down, hit many snags, as I guess you'd expect. Trying to shut down major streets in a major city for an entire weekend is no easy feat. But it sounds like that's still something NASCAR really wants to do. It also sounds like they may have Chicagoland Speedway still in raceable condition waiting in the wings in case they can't get that street race in Chicago solidified. Chicago's a big market. I think NASCAR wants to be there whether it's a street course or if they have to, they bring back the mile and a half. This year the mile and a halves have been pretty fun to watch. When Steve Phelps talks about bold and innovative, he also mentioned, and I didn't read this quote, but he mentioned the possibility of racing internationally. I think they'd start with Canada and Mexico. They're close by, don't have to travel overseas. There are several road course options in Canada. Montreal would get my pick. And I think there's an opportunity in Mexico as well. There have been some rumors about Mexico City. I don't agree with everything that Steve Phelps and the current NASCAR leadership core has decided in the last few years, but I do greatly appreciate their willingness to try new things, particularly when it comes to venues and scheduling. Some have worked better than others. The Clash at the Coliseum was a huge hit. Bristol Dirt, even though many people do not like it and are very vocal about it, it's brought in better ratings and better attendance. The Charlotte Roval was a pretty big hit, but there have been some misses, like the Indy Road Course last year turned into kind of a mess. But for every miss, perhaps, there's at least 2 or 3 hits we could talk about. Gateway, a couple weeks ago, that was a hit. When it comes to street courses, I'll say what I've said all along. I think 1 street race a year would be fantastic. I don't think it would lead to the best or most competitive racing, but if NASCAR has the opportunity to bring their product to a major city, instead of asking hundreds of thousands of people to drive an hour to their track, they bring their product to the hundreds of thousands or millions of people. To me, that is a can't miss marketing opportunity. If NASCAR can do it even just once, like a one-off, not even every year, I think you have to take it. If you can make it happen, go for it. As for stadium racing, I think that concept should be explored greatly. I don't know about a points paying race inside of a stadium yet. I think you could do it. I wouldn't be like entirely opposed to it, but I'd start with exhibition races until we get a better grasp on the overall concept. The Clash at the Coliseum next year is a good idea. I'd like to see maybe in the future they move the Clash to other stadium venues. Obviously it's in February, you got to keep things in the South, but maybe somewhere in Florida, maybe somewhere in Texas. Keep moving things around. The All-Star race in May, I think, is where you can get even more creative. I know it's expected to return to Texas Motor Speedway next year, but first chance NASCAR gets, whenever current contracts are up for renegotiation, NASCAR should push for a different All-Star race venue, something off the beaten path. Bring it to an old school track like a Nashville Fairgrounds or North Wilkesboro. Or go totally new school and maybe bring the stadium concept to Chicago, race in Soldier Field like they did 60 years ago. I know not every stadium has the exact right dimensions to hold a NASCAR track, but I'm sure there are others besides the LA Coliseum that are candidates. International opportunities are always on the table. We got big football stadiums in America, but there are some pretty big soccer stadiums worldwide. Like Phelps said, there are 36 points paying races and there are 2 exhibitions. Those 2 exhibition races are where NASCAR's creativity should truly shine. I don't want to see those slots wasted on a Texas Motor Speedway or a Richmond Raceway or heck even a Charlotte. As great as the Coke 600 was a few weeks ago, I think those 2 exhibition races should be where NASCAR just goes wild. Try new ideas, try new markets, and do what you can to try and grow the sport. A lot of try, but I think if NASCAR is able to do more of these things, like they were able to do a race in the Coliseum, I think it'll grow the sport. Not immediately, it won't be a sudden spike likely like we've seen with F1 in America and thanks to Netflix, but I think it would begin a consistent, steady turnaround, if you will. Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. How do you feel about more stadium races, maybe just as exhibitions? What about a street race? Do you still think that Chicago thing is possible? Would you like to see it happen? How do you feel about the Clash returning to LA next year? Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We talk racing day in, day out here on Out of the Groove. As always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. I truly appreciate your support. Couldn't do this show without it. It is an off week for the NASCAR Cup Series, but we've got plenty of content right around the corner. While the NASCAR Cup Series isn't racing, the Superstar Racing Experience makes their season debut. Also trucks at Knoxville, so still lots to watch for this weekend. We'll have lots to talk about leading up to it. Thanks for watching, y'all. I will see you in the next video.